Composite figures. Okay, what do you think a composite figure is? Yes. Okay, a figure as a whole. Okay, but what do you think the figure is comprised of? What do you think?
Multiple shapes.
Multiple shapes. So a composite figure is just multiple shapes that make up the total figure. Okay, so we're going to label or define these three key terms. I was going to put them on a vocab sheet like we've done in the past, but I just felt like it was a little redundant to write it twice. So we're just going to write them on here. So a base of a trapezoid, okay, the parallel sides of the trapezoid. So the bases are the parallel sides of the trapezoid. Okay, that makes the legs of a trapezoid the non-parallel sides. Okay, so if I go and draw a trapezoid over here. Ooh, that was bad. Okay, I'm going to mark parallel. Okay, so if I were to highlight these are what?
Parallel.
Which are my bases. Okay, and then I have these sides, which are what? Legs. Okay, so I have my bases, and my legs. Okay, just like Miranda said, a composite figure is a figure that is formed by multiple shapes or combining different shapes. Okay, so composite figure, a figure that is formed by combining different shapes. Okay, I'm going to draw another trapezoid. What shapes could I break my trapezoid into? Very good. Two triangles, and not necessarily a square, but a rectangle. Okay, we don't know necessarily if those sides are congruent or not. But you could break it into two triangles. What kind of triangles would we have? Right triangles. Okay, and then a rectangle, or in some instances you may have a square. Okay, so a trapezoid is essentially a composite figure as well. Okay, it's made up of rectangles and triangles. Questions over our terms for today? Okay, let's look at some practice problems. Okay, it says find the area. Oh, I'm not practice problems yet. Formula for area of a trapezoid. Looking on that yellow sheet. Okay, find the trapezoid. What is our formula for area of a trapezoid?
Area equals 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times height.
Very good. Base 1 plus base 2 times height. Okay, hopefully we know this, but how do you find the perimeter of a shape? Add up all your sides. Okay, so there's no fancy formula for that, but you're adding up all your sides. All right, so for number 1, it says find the area and the perimeter of the trapezoid. Okay, what is the length of AB? What is the length of AD? 5. What is the length of DC?
6.
How could we find the length of BC?
Distance formula.
Distance formula or
Pythagorean.
Pythagorean theorem. I personally think Pythagorean theorem is a lot easier because you can just drop that height and then you have a right triangle. Okay, so what would be the length of one of my legs? 3, and the other one? 5. Okay, so let's find 5 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. 25 plus 9 equals c squared. 34 What is the square root of 34 to the nearest thousandths?
5.8.
To the nearest thousandth?
5.8.
One more, please.
A 1.
1. Do we agree? Is that what you guys have on your calculator? To the nearest thousandth? Yes? Okay. So this is 5.831. Okay, so what would be the perimeter? 5 plus 3 plus 6 plus 5.831. 19 point what?
831.
Do we agree? Okay, what do you think we need to attach to our answer? Units, okay? Although I'm not given feet, meters, whatever, okay, there are still units on a coordinate grid. Okay, so moving from here forward, we haven't counted off points for you guys not putting units after your segments. However, moving forward now with area, perimeter, and everything else we're doing, you will miss a point every single time you do not have units. Okay, last year when I was grading tests, people would miss up to 12 points just because they forgot units. Okay, so it's an easy thing to forget, but a costly thing to forget as well. Okay, so if it has feet, inches, centimeters, whatever, you put that. But if it does not have anything, you just put a U, or you can write units. Okay, how do we find area of a trapezoid? Very good. Okay, so what are our bases? 3 and 6. And what is our height? 5. Okay, so I have 1/2 times 9 times 5. What do you get as your area? Is it 22.5? 22.5 what?
Units.
Units what? Squared, because you were dealing with area. So 22.5 units squared is the area, and our perimeter is 19.831. Okay, another tricky thing that people make mistakes on is we get into the habit of just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, what if there was a scale factor on this coordinate grid? What if each line counted by 5s? Okay, then it's no longer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, etc. Okay, so you've got to make sure that you're being aware of what your axes are counting by. Okay, because on a test, like I said, they might count by 3s. They could count by 6s. On a skills check, it might count by something other than 1. And you could do all this work and then get the whole thing wrong because you didn't pay attention. Okay, so make sure you're paying attention to what your axes are counting by. All right, next one. Okay, area and perimeter of the trapezoid. Same thing. Okay, what is the length of XY? 4. What is the length of WZ? Okay, how can we find YZ and XW? Pythagorean theorem. Drop a height. Okay, so what's the length of one of my legs? 1. What's the length of my other leg? 8. Okay, so I have 8 squared plus 1 squared equals C squared. 64 plus 1 equals C squared. What is the square root of 65? 8.062. Do we agree? Okay, is that the length of YZ and XW? Okay. Any questions on how we found those values? No? Okay, so for perimeter, we add them all up. You have 4 plus 6 plus 8.062 plus 8.062. Okay, the way that I always double check my perimeter is I want to make sure that I added up the number of sides of my shape. Okay, so I have 4 sides of a trapezoid. I should have 4 numbers in my addition problem. Okay, I guarantee you that when the figures get more complex and in a larger composite figure, we tend to forget sides. Okay, so make sure your addition problem has as many numbers as it does sides. Okay, so right here we have 4, so we're good. So what is our perimeter? 26.124 units. Don't forget your units. Okay, area, we have 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times height. What are our bases? 4 plus 6. What's our height? What's our height? Very good. Your legs are not your height. Okay, your legs are not your height. Your height is an altitude, which means it's what? It's perpendicular to the bottom. Okay, so a perpendicular height. And I guarantee you that that's another mistake that will be made. Make sure you do not use a leg as your height. Okay, unless that leg is perpendicular to the base. Okay, 4 plus 6 is 10, times 8 is 80, times 1/2 is what? 40 units squared. Okay, the only time that you would use a leg as a height is if your trapezoid looked like this. This leg right here then would be a height. But that is the only time you use a leg as your height. Okay, questions about that? All right. Turn the page. Okay, within your tables or by yourself, however you want to do it, maybe do one by yourself, one as a table. Okay, complete numbers 1 and 2, finding the area and perimeter of the trapezoids. If you need to round, round to the nearest thousandth. Okay, we are going to look at composite figures. Okay, so we're going to find the area and perimeter of these composite figures. Okay, what can we split polygon PQRST into? A triangle and a rectangle. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so we have a rectangle and a triangle. Okay, what is the length of PT? 3. TS? RS? Okay. Now we need to find QP and QR. Okay, so if I make a right triangle, what are my legs? 2 and 3. Okay, so I have 2 squared plus 3 squared equals C squared. 4 plus 9 equals C squared. 13 equals C squared. To the nearest thousandth, what do we have?
3.606.
Awesome. Okay, so I know QR is 3.606. What about QP? Very good. Okay, so I have a 5-sided polygon, so I want to make sure that I add 5 sides together for my perimeter. 3 plus 6 plus 3 plus 3.606 plus 3.606. What do you get for the perimeter? Awesome. Okay, for area, what are we going to have to do? Break it up and find the area of what?
The triangles.
Very good. So you're going to need area of the triangle plus area of the rectangle? Okay, how do you find area of a triangle? Base times height divided by 2, or 1/2 base times height. What is the base of my triangle? 6. What is my height? Very good. So what is the area of my triangle? 6 what? Units what? Squared. Area squarea. Always square your units for area. Okay, how do we find area of a rectangle? Base times height. What's my base?
6.
My height. So what is my area?
18 units squared.
Awesome. Now we got to add them. Triangle plus a rectangle. What is my total area?
24 units squared.
Awesome. And just like that, we're done. Questions on that composite figure? Okay. Next one. Okay, find the area and the perimeter of this composite figure. What can we split this up into?
2 trapezoids.
Okay, the fewest steps would be 2 trapezoids. So you would have 1 trapezoid, 2 trapezoids. Okay, let's work on the perimeter first. Okay, what's AF? 5. What is FE? 7. Okay, what's DC? DC 10.
Oh.
Okay, now we need to go and find this guy, and this guy. Okay, so if I draw all these right triangles, okay, I have this right triangle, I have this right triangle, and I have this right triangle. Okay, so let's look at the hypotenuse AB. Okay, what is the length of one of my legs? For AB. 7. What about the other one? 2. Okay, so I know in order to solve for AB, I need 7 squared plus 2 squared equals C squared. 49 plus 4, 53. To the nearest thousandth, what do we get?
7.280.
Okay, so 7.280. Okay, let's find CB. What is the length of my 2 legs for CB? 4 and 3, so what's CB? Should know your triple. 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we know this one's 5. Okay, now we need to find DE. What are your 2 legs for DE? 3 and 3. So 3 squared plus 3 squared equals C squared. 9 plus 9. 18. What's the square root of 18 to the nearest thousandth? 4.243. Okay, so count how many sides of our shape we have. How many sides do we have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
6. So we want to make sure that we're adding up 6 sides. So we have 5 plus 7 plus 4.243 plus 10 plus 5 plus 7.28. Okay, what do we get as our perimeter?
38.523 units.
38.523 units. Do we agree? Awesome. Okay, now we have 2 area equations to solve for. Can I erase all the Pythagorean theorem stuff? Okay, thanks. Okay, so we have area of a trapezoid 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times my height. Okay, let's look at my yellow trapezoid first. What are my 2 bases?
5 and 3.
5 and 3. What's my height? 7. Okay, 1/2 of 8 times 7. It's going to give me what? 28. What? Units squared. Okay, now I need my area of my pink trapezoid. Okay, what are my bases for my pink trapezoid? And my height? 3. So 1/2 of 13 times 3. 19.5 what? Units squared. Okay, when I add those 2 together, what do I get as my area? 47.5 units squared. Okay, so do you see how many steps there are and how easy it would be to make one mistake and get the whole thing wrong? Okay, so again, what are the 3 things we're looking for? Units.
Units of graph.
The scale on your graph, so what your axes are going by, and the last one's what? What was the last thing that we need to look for? Your heights, and your height should always be what? Perpendicular to the bases. So whether it's a trapezoid, whether it's a triangle, okay, make sure your heights are always perpendicular to your base. Okay, make sure they are always perpendicular to your base. Okay, try number 1 on your own. Go. All right, what did you guys get for your total area? 42 inches squared. Very good. What did y'all split your shape up into? 2 rectangles. So most of you guys did this, I think. That's 1 rectangle. This is another rectangle. And this is a triangle. Oh, I shouldn't have picked so close to the same color. Okay. Which is fine. What's another way that you could have done it? A trapezoid and 2 rectangles. Okay, I think that's about it. But awesome job. Okay, what about the cost? How'd you figure out the cost? Very good. You just took the area and you multiplied it by 3. So what is the cost of this portrait? $126. Awesome job. Okay, so on your quiz and your skills check and your homework and all kinds of stuff like that, okay, you will have to apply your perimeter and your area, okay, to things like this. So finding the cost of a painting, finding the cost of a fence, finding the cost of a deck, okay, all those different kinds of things. All right, last one. Okay, One base of a trapezoid is 5 times as long as the other. The height is the average of the two bases. The area is 100 square units. Find the length of the longer base. So first, always start with a picture. Okay, how do I write that one base is 5 times the other? X and 5x. Hold, please. This is Coach Cullen. Hi. She just can't have the calculator at the same time. But she can have both parts. Okay, you're welcome back. Okay, so we have x and 5x. Okay, how do we show that the height is the average of the two bases? Add them and divide by 2. So x plus 5x divided by 2. What's x plus 5x? Divide that by 2. 3x. Okay, so our height is 3x. Okay, and what other information were we given? The area is 100 units squared. Okay, so what is our formula for area of a trapezoid? Very good. Okay, so substitute in what you know. So we know our area is 100. We know that base 1 or base 2, whatever you want to say, x and 5x. And we know our height is 3x. What is x plus 5x? 6x. What is 6x times 3x? 18x squared. Okay, last year kids were making this mistake over and over by saying that 6x times 3x was just 18x. Okay, if you do just 18x, okay, you're losing an x. Okay, so make sure when you multiply x's, you have an x squared. Okay, so what is 1/2 of 18x squared?
9x squared.
Okay, so we have 100 equals 9x squared. Okay, how do I solve this? What do I have to do first? Divide by 9. Okay, so I have 100 over 9 equals x squared. Now what can I do? How do I get x by itself? Take the square root of both sides. Okay, so that cancels that and the square root. So now I just have x. What is the square root of 100? 10. What is the square root of 9?
81.
The square root of 9? 3. So, therefore, the length of the longer base, okay, would be what? If that's x, how would we find the length of the longer base?
Multiply by 5.
Multiply it by 5. So we have 10/3 times 5. And what do we get as the longer base? 5 times 10
50.
over 3. And what's our unit? Units or units squared? Units, because you're just talking about a base. Okay, so x was 10/3 and our longer base would be 50 over 3. Okay, does everybody see how we went from 100 over 9 to 10/3? Okay, when you have a fraction underneath the square root, essentially you're just taking the square root of the top over the square root of the bottom. Okay, that's all that big square root means. And so the square root of 100 is 10. The square root of 9 is 3. And so that's how you can get rid of those square roots. Okay, I think that's it. Questions over anything that we did today or that maybe you want to revisit? We're good?